The Israeli Prime Minister is furious over Friday's vote at the United Nations opposing Israeli settlements in the West Bank and at the White House for abstaining from it. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu telling his cabinet, quote, "From the information that we have no doubt that the Obama administration initiated it, stood behind it, coordinated it on the wording and demanded it be passed." The White House says, hey, that's not true. And that President Obama has always put the highest priority on Israel and its security. Kevin Corke joins us. He's traveling with the president. He is live in Honolulu, Hawaii. Kevin, what else is the White House saying about this?
Well, I think you made a very important point there, Greg. Listen, they have said repeatedly and consistently that they have supported the state of Israel throughout the entirety of the Obama White House. But the truth is, this is seen as a major break from tradition. But the White House is bristling at any suggestion that somehow they were behind the coordination of this particular vote. I'm going to share with the folks at home, in case they haven't had a chance to see it, just some of what Eric Schultz, the principal deputy White House press secretary, had to say about this. He's not mincing words, my friend. He said the U.S. didn't draft this resolution, nor did the U.S. introduce the resolution. The Egyptians, in partnership with the Palestinians, are the ones who began circulating an earlier draft of the resolution. Now, here's where it gets a little into the weeds. Watch this. The Egyptians are the ones who moved it forward on Friday, and we took the position that we did when it was put to a vote. But Israeli leaders still are publicly accusing the administration of having orchestrated that resolution that condemns Israel's settlement construction.
We have rather ironclad information from sources in both the Arab world and internationally that this was a deliberate push by the United States, and in fact they helped create the resolution in the first place. And so it's deeply disappointing that this has been the path of President Obama.
Now, many in the administration, frankly, are frustrated because they would say, listen, Bibi has already publicly announced that he has received strong security and material support from this administration throughout President Obama's presidency, and yet that's not the storyline here, and I think there's no question about this, Greg. There's a very good reason why that's not the big storyline here. Greg?
Kevin, what about the potential effect on U.S. relations with Israel?
Okay, I want to look at this a couple ways. First of all, the administration would say to you, we're going to be fine. Rough patch, we'll smooth over it. But I think there are a lot of people who are wondering, frankly, Greg, what will happen now under a Trump administration. I'm going to show you a little tape of a guy that you may not have heard of. You may have. He's a bankruptcy lawyer, son of an Orthodox rabbi. He's a guy by the name of David Friedman, and he is President-elect Trump's selection to be the ambassador to Israel. Now, here's why this is relevant. At least from a policy position, he is seen as fairly hawkish. Someone who is a statehood, or I should say a joint statehood between the Israelis and the Palestinian. He's against Palestinian statehood. We're also told he's an unrelenting defender of Israel's government and a fervent supporter of the Israeli settlements. And here's why this is so important. If that's his position, that should give you a window into how the new administration feels about this issue, which has obviously been a very, very hotly contested one at the United Nations, Greg.
Kevin Corke live in Honolulu. Kevin, thanks very much. Let's bring back our political panel. Democratic strategist Robin Byro and Republican strategist Ford O'Connell. Robin, Israel says it feels deeply betrayed by this. Netanyahu himself says it's shameful. He blames President Obama, said Obama was behind it, initiated it, coordinated, wrote the wording of it, and our reporting suggests the very same thing, that President Obama made this decision himself while on vacation. I mean, if so, what does that say about his views on Israel and Netanyahu?
You know, Greg, I honestly don't think that abstention in this case is a bad thing. I think it's a moderate approach that Republicans have been calling for a long time. So I'm actually pleased that President Obama has taken this approach of abstention. It's tantamount to the same policies of recusal that we use in other branches of government. So I don't think it's going to be a problem. And I think that right now this is more Republican rhetoric trying to paint his administration in a bad light, saying that it's going to tarnish in some ways how history will look back at his presidency. But I think that it's honestly just
you spend 8 years taking one side on those votes, and then suddenly, with a month left in your presidency, you take the opposite side. I mean, that's sort of hard to understand. Ford, does this just underscore how ugly and acrimonious the relationship has been between the Prime Minister and President Obama?
Oh, absolutely. This is the proverbial middle finger to Israel, and they've had 8 years of bad blood, from the Iran nuclear deal to even President Obama using $350,000 of U.S. taxpayer money to interfere in Netanyahu's reelection. This just further shows that the Obama administration does not care for our best ally in the Middle East, Israel, and they're going to wind up putting more obstacles in the way for President-elect Trump. That has really been the Obama modus operandi on the foreign policy front. Withdraw, let the rest of the world deal with it. My question is very simple. How does this further peace between Israel and Palestine? Because I don't think it does.
It may do the opposite, Robin, which is Ford's point, because right now, apparently, the reporting out of Israel is that they're planning, because of this, to accelerate the construction of 390 new settlement units. So isn't this having the opposite effect?
I can see your point. I still think that this is a very moderate position, and it's the one that we need to be taking right now at this point in time. And I agree with the president on this. I think he's making the right call.
Yeah.
I can understand, though, when you take into account that President Obama received the Nobel Peace Prize for Middle East relations, I do see the concern there.
But, Robin, if you're
didn't he get that almost before he was sworn in? Barely.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right, though. But if you're going to have a peace solution between Palestine and Israel, it's going to be because those two direct actors want it. They don't want it. My problem in the UN is, and we've been basically abstaining or putting down 40 settlement resolutions, vetoing them since 1980, because the UN has anti-Israeli sentiment rife throughout. And the problem is the UN is not world government. It is a puppet for basically pushing tyrants and dictators to control the world agenda and to lecture Western democracies on how it is we should conduct our own behavior, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Well, things are likely going to change because Trump's choice to be the ambassador to Israel is an ardent supporter of settlements. Ford, Robin, good to see you both. Thanks very much. We're going to pause, take a quick break, settle down.